let me say first, I had the pleasure of meeting an amazing woman on the campaign trail with you and who co-chaired your campaign, Senator Nina Turner, former senator of Ohio. And hopefully there's a congressional seat coming up in Ohio. Hopefully she can be convinced to run. So I just like to say publicly now, if Nina runs, I'm publicly endorsing her and I'm gonna show up on the road to help her out. I wish you would join me in doing so if she runs, because I think Ohio and our nation deserves to hear more of Nina Turner. So thank you for making sure I got introduced to her, and I hope we convince her to run.
Okay. Well, I think she is going to run, and I think I am going to be supporting her. We need voices like Nina's in the U.S. Congress.
Yes, Killer Mike. Nina Turner is going to run. You don't have to rely on Bernie Sanders. They're telling you she's going to run. You can also rely on me doing the news. Nina Turner is running for Congress, the 11th Congressional District of Congress. You, Killer Mike, are going to get what you wanted. Not to mention what he wanted, what I wanted. I love the fact that Nina Turner is going to run for Congress, and I am going to give you her opening campaign video. Miss Turner, if you are nasty, God, I love her. Look, I don't have this idea in my head that people are anything more than just human beings and people. By the same token, I do think there are some people that try to do good. And in trying to do good, whether I agree with them on each and everything, and I don't even know each and everything Nina Turner necessarily pushes or believes in, but what she has pushed and believed in, I've agreed with. And she's done it voraciously, even in adverse conditions of a Bernie Sanders campaign. Why do I say adverse conditions? I say adverse conditions because she is an adversarial politician, or at the very least, she comes across that way. And in coming across that way, trying to push Sanders to be more aggressive, be more open-mouthed about his relationship with the black community, about his marching with King, pushing back on Biden's lying about civil rights. Turner was doing those things. She was the one that wrote the article, Joe Biden wasn't always a friend to the black community. And by the way, she held her punches on that. And even that was too much. So yes, I am enamored to see what that person looks like. Not pushing somebody, but being in the position themselves. I'm fascinated by this. Because it's one thing to write an article, it's one thing to do a YouTube video, it's one thing to be behind the scenes saying, hey, you should go out and do this. It's different when you're sitting at the board. It's different when the threats are going to be taken by you and you have a certain degree of skin in the game. People can yell anything out from the stands. When you're in it, it's different. So this is going to be fascinating. Now, Miss Turner, Nina Turner, has been in the Senate in Ohio before. She was a former senator from Ohio. So she is talking about moving to the congressional level. This is only good to me, right? So I'm going to show you her campaign video of coming out. It sounds like you're going to have Killer Mike, and at the very least, Bernie Sanders, at the very least, me, pushing for you because, she has been a bright spot in our politics. I remember going all the way back. I don't know if you remember this night, the night that Sanders basically told people at the DNC convention, they held his husk of a body up and they ran him, paraded him about the DNC, and the Democrats laughed at him and he threw oranges and tomatoes at him and rotted eggs. And he wept, openly wept. And we all felt some kind of way about that. Nina Turner was supposed to speak that night. And if you remember, instead of speaking that night, Clinton basically said no and sent her walking. And when people caught up with her and basically asked her, hey, what happened? What happened? She demurred on explaining what happened, but gave you enough information to give you a heads up on what happened. It was on that day I thought to myself, she's going to have a political career. How could she not have a political career? Ton of fire. She's just been massively maligned by the party. And when you're maligned by the party, two reactions, right? Take it and go, or you do something about it. She was already in politics. She was already working with Sanders. My thought was, that she's going to be in politics. And so I'm really glad that she made that decision to move to the federal level. And I got to be honest, why wouldn't you? You were working with a high-profile presidential candidate that had the potential to win. And for the longest time, thought they were going to win. And if I'm being honest, if you would have listened to Nina Turner, had a much better chance of winning. Instead, he sheepdogged. A few people in the campaign, like Sorota and Brianna Joy Gray, kept punching. And even Nina kept punching. And so I'm glad that Sanders leaving didn't necessarily bring these guys with it. If anything, he seeded the ground for people like her. I've said before, Sanders is the compromise. And the fight that is happening between Dorr and some of the other lefties, nominally anyway, kind of makes that point. Welcome to the fray. Welcome to the soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or Patreon. This content is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you the opportunity for allowing me to do it. Oftentimes, I come on this show and, if it bleeds, it leads, or if it annoys the hell out of me, it leads, or for that matter, if it creates an argument or something that we can think about. It's one of those things that take the front page, but oftentimes it's the disasters, the bad things, that kind of drag your eye and grab your focus for obvious reasons of issues of priority, right? In this case, I love giving this news because I actually think she's going to be a bright spot. Nina Turner. You already know who Nina Turner is, but welcome anyway.
Thank all of you for joining us. Today, I am announcing my candidacy for Congress for the 11th Congressional District of Ohio. The community that I love, the community that I have sought to serve for my entire adult life, and the community that needs to continue to be represented in Congress by someone who will work hard every single day to make sure we achieve the progress and prosperity in the model on Cleveland's city flag. This community has a special tradition. We pick bold Democratic leaders who aren't afraid to make good trouble, as the late civil rights leader John Lewis called it. The year I was born in the Lee Harvard neighborhood is the year the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came here to help elect the first Black mayor of a major American city, Mayor Carl B. Stokes. This congressional district was a direct product of the Voting Rights Act that Dr. King and so many others championed. And we sent Congressman Lewis Stokes to Washington, where he founded the Congressional Black Caucus. We elected Congresswoman Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who became a chair of the Democratic National Committee, who fought hard to expand health care, and who courageously voted against the Iraq War. And we elected Congresswoman Marsha Fudge, who distinguished service is being recognized by her nomination to be the first Black woman in more than 40 years to head the Department of Housing and Urban Development. These are big shoes to fill, but big shoes whose footsteps will continue to echo in this community into the future. I would be honored to try to fill those big shoes with humility and determination, and to follow the path of public service and community commitment that they have laid out. A commitment that I have tried to follow in my own life, in my work, to build a stronger Democratic Party for the people, and in my previous representation of this community.
Excellent. Excellent. Like I said, I don't expect people to be superhuman, right? And I get that there will be a lot of people who will look at this and think, look, it's all a swamp. And I can mostly agree with that. I don't necessarily like the broad brush. Mostly, yes. But again, there are bright spots. And there are people that are, despite being in the swamp, try to do good. I think she's one. And, it's one of those things I always say, look at what the person does and see how that thing goes over time. But I love the fact that she's going to Congress. I love that. Love that. By the way, any change, any major change, especially real change that takes place, would require instantiation into law. Meaning whatever you get accomplished, whatever you get, like winning the argument in and of itself is not enough. And even the social movement in and of itself is not enough. It's almost like that movement needs to seed the ground enough where you can create enough of a political pressure and a political threat to compel action, or at the very least get people in who agree, or at the very least are so terrified that they're going to lose their seats that they do it anyway. Look at the Republican Party, for example. I am fascinated by what is taking place in the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell comes out today, and Mitch McConnell basically congratulates Joe Biden. Now, people are like, whoa, this is a big deal that Mitch McConnell came out and congratulated Joe Biden. I think the big deal of this is not that he congratulated Joe Biden, but that he waited this long to do so. It's not like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden aren't friends. It's not like Mitch McConnell is more in line with the thinking of, let's say, a Joe Biden than it is with, let's say, a Donald Trump. By the same token, McConnell and many of these other Republicans entirely understood that their base would eat them alive if they turned on Trump. They were terrified of it. Now, compare this for the moment to the left. It's not even, they're having a hard time pushing AOC, and not even a hard time. People are angry that somebody would even have the temerity to say, do your job. I'm not one of those people that is a hard ass on AOC. At least I don't think I am. And I don't necessarily think I'm being entirely unfair. I think I've made the point before that I don't think this focus should be entirely on AOC in this conversation. You have like 100 members in the Progressive Caucus. What the hell have they been doing? What the hell have they been doing? And with 100 members of the Progressive Caucus and 74% of the population pushing for Medicare for all, why don't you have it? I guess my thing is this goes beyond AOC, even though I understand she's a lightning rod for a lot of this stuff. Look, frankly, the very fact that the conversation is taking place is different and a positive. Meaning, I know some people keep making this argument that they think it's an argument that I don't necessarily give credence to. Well, you're going to lose the Medicare for all vote anyway. That's almost immaterial in comparison to whether or not you can use the leverage to even do that. I don't even believe that they would use the leverage to even try to get her to do that. Meaning, it is a mind-blowing thing just for the act itself. Just to get the organization and just to get the political will, the spine, to even attempt something like that. I would make the point that even having the conversation in and of itself is a positive thing. Can't even get them to do that. Republicans are terrified of Trump. Meaning the populist right, terrified. The populist left. Fucking act! Do something! I don't think they realize how much of a failure and embarrassment. 74% of the public is backing Medicare for all in the middle of a pandemic with 300,000 people dead, 12 million people infected. I think it's like 14 million people infected. 20, 30 million people don't have health care in a pandemic. 74%, not just of Democrats, of the public said, we want Medicare for all. Nancy Pelosi, who wants to be Speaker of the House, said, send prayers. Send prayers. From my assessment, send prayers to get to be Speaker of the House. And she shouldn't be able to get your votes. And the problem with this is the further down you go, the worse your options get. Because it's one thing to do this to Biden. Meaning it's one thing to tell Biden to the tunes of tens of 20 million people saying you're not going to get my vote if you do X. And you have this broad coalition of the public that basically forces a party to accept or not. But at the very least, you get a demand. As opposed to what took place when all of the left laid down. The reason why I'm making the point that this is good is because this is what should have happened before the election. The fact that it happens now for the Nancy Pelosi thing, it's like, yeah, but this is far, far weaker than trying to get what you wanted beforehand. I'm just making the point that the very point of view, the very act, the very fact that the conversation is being had is in and of itself a good thing and a temperament change to action and to being aware and to kind of push your political people that you are putting in office, that you are sending money to do something. That is something fundamentally different that took place over the last 40, 50 years. And I have to be honest, that needs to have the edge to it that you will lose. And I don't mean this for the likes of AOC. I don't even mean this for the likes of Ilhan Omar. The squad is basically taking a hit for 40, 50 years of inaction. It's like anything else. When there's a backlog and all of it finally goes through, the innocent might get hit. That's what this is. So fair enough, I get it. I don't necessarily think it's entirely fair to put all of this on her as an individual. And I get the argument people make. They say, well, she drew this line to herself. She was a lightning rod. Yeah, she was somebody who wanted political change, and I suspect she still does, even though being in the mix, I would imagine she probably thinks there are lines that I have to work between that she didn't necessarily see that was there before. I think part of the problem is that when you're outside of politics, you realize these guys are not your friends. But when you're looking them in the face, it's different. And I think therein lies the rub. And that's why the 20, 30 million people are there. And that's why they should be paying attention. And that's why they should push. And even if it's something like this, I don't think people should get uber focused on the Medicare for all specific on this particular thing. Yes, push. Does it need to exactly be Medicare for all? No, it doesn't need to exactly be Medicare for all. Again, to me, the point is the action itself. The point is that you're able to use leverage in order to inflict political will. And I point out that that is something that the left doesn't tend to do. And it's something that it needs to start doing more often. Look, Ms. Turner may be a member of the squad. And that number expands that much more. And for my frame of mind, like I said, you always need something in Congress to be able to instantiate whatever you change into law to ever make that thing a law. You have the support from the standpoint of the public that says, yes, we want Medicare for all. Yes, this is a pandemic. But I am making the point to you that it is a ticking clock. And 2020 was a time to make that work. Either way, that's in the past. All I think we could do is move forward. I hope the left understands the level of a failure to which voting in Biden without having anything for it was. They put in all of these people, and you're going to get squat. And he is going to make bipartisan legislation, quote unquote, that you are going to absolutely hate, and you voted for it, and you got nothing for it. That needs to change. Again, this goes back to this thing of you should push your political leaders. And at the end of the day, represent your interests or fail. And I don't mean in this kind of flighty Twitter way, where it's like, oh, she didn't do this one thing, and so this. No, I mean, looking over at what a politician does, what a politician stands for, what they push for, and the things that they've done over the time of their career. Yes, there are things that will be red flags, will be like, that's a fail regardless of what takes place. But more so, the ability to act, the ability to push in and of itself is value. And again, man, that is something that needs to become far more akin to the left, even if you get people in like Ms. Turner. Like, share, and of course, subscribe. And yes, Ms. Turner, if you're nasty.